Welcome to the show, boys and girls. We're back. I think it's 35. I forgot to set up the... well, I got a new computer, and I don't have the breakdown sheet on this computer. So, I'm going to say 35, whether it is or not. There's one way to find out, but we'll figure that out later. Max is in Vegas. AC's in the room. Sam's in the room. I just messed something up. But yeah, like I said, I got a new computer, so I got a few glitches to work out. Yeah, so anyway, it's the 7th of November. Puts us a couple weeks out from the hunting trip where you'll get some really, really bad content, and you look forward to it. So, that's what I got. Oh, there's an election or something this week, too. I guess we'll end up talking about that. That's what I got, and I guess we'll start the show.
Why not?
Check the mic. Yep. Wow, good job.
I screwed his up, but yours is good.
Nice.
Yeah. I glued all my Star Wars people around. I got my Star Wars figures on the board here. I got a TIE fighter up on the boom.
What?
See, I got my little TIE fighter right there.
I don't know what that is. TIE fighter?
Yes, TIE fighter.
Is that like THAI? As in
I think
Thailand?
it's just TAI.
Is that true?
Or TI. I gotta look it up.
I haven't seen any of those ever.
I know, we've talked about it, and it really makes you sad, but
I'm sorry.
you know, you're a big kid, you can do what you want. So, yeah, I don't know. What do you guys got? I mean, are we going to go straight into election coverage?
Sure. Fuck it, let's do it.
I mean, disappointed I lost my bet. Not necessarily surprised.
What? Come on. You've been running your damn cocksucker for months now about how there's no way Trump's going to lose.
I didn't think he was. That's why I bet on it.
So wait a minute.
So you didn't think they were. Okay.
Yeah, so which one is it? Yeah. I mean, you thought he was going to lose, or you didn't think he was going to lose?
I mean, I bet thinking he wasn't going to lose, but I'm not surprised. It's not like a world shaking. Oh my God, I can't believe this happened.
Well, yeah, I mean, there was a 50-50 shot. I mean, you could say, I'm not surprised. It went the other way.
Yeah, I'm a little confused by the statement. I mean, if you're not surprised by it, then why the hell did you make the bet?
Well, because I felt like it was going to happen, and it didn't.
So you are surprised?
Well, I mean, I guess if that's the definition of surprise.
Oh, don't give me that shit. Come on now, that's crap.
I don't.
Crap.
Well, how is that crap?
I mean, it doesn't. Logically, it doesn't follow that that you would make a bet and then you would lose and say, "Wow, I'm not surprised."
Yeah. Well, you're not much of a gambler, I guess, because a lot of times you make bets that you don't really care about. It's just fun to do.
So you're trying to say that the only reason why you made the bet is because it was fun, and that you're not surprised that Trump lost, is what you're saying?
I wouldn't say that's the complete reason, but probably at least 51%.
That it was fun?
Yeah, 51% of making that bet was for fun. Yeah, I would. I can't guarantee that.
Well, here's something else that's fun.
But I'll go out on a limb and say 51%, at least 51%, maybe more. I'm not sure.
So Biden will make it through all 4 years.
That's not mine. That's Max's argument.
I mean, it's fun, so why not do it anyway?
I mean, that's why he's doing it.
I'm talking about you. Why would you not do that then?
Because I don't really.
That's not fun enough?
I mean, I think it is. I don't know. It's a little macabre, I guess.
I just said I didn't want to wait 4 years for
right.
Keep up with the bet for that long.
I'm a patient man. I'll wait. So for those,
I mean, if gambling, realistically, if stupid betting wasn't a thing, I don't think Max and I would be who we are today as friends and stuff like that.
Different subject, I suppose. Sure, maybe. I don't know.
We're saying stupid little gambling, fantasy football, shit like that's the only reason we stayed in touch after we split ways after one of the jobs we had together.
So for those of you that are listening, there was a conversation, 2 days ago maybe, on our group chat about Max believes that Biden has got some sort of mental deficiency and that he would be deemed mentally unfit for office, 25th Amendment, or would remove him before the end of his 4 years, or he would just outright be in a psychiatric facility or be dead, I guess. And it's
if he's the bet, as I clarified for you guys, the bet is
sure.
If he leaves office for any other reason except impeachment inside the term. If he gets impeached, the bet's off.
Yes,
But any other reason he leaves the office.
and there's no way he's going to get impeached because the Democrats still have the House, and there's no way that's even going to be a thing.
For the moment.
For the moment,
And not by much, but yeah.
I mean, it's double digits. I mean, it's more than not by much. And when they were up by like 30, I think it's only like 15 or 18 or something. It's not like 2.
Huh. I was confused on. That was one I was confused on because I was trying to watch that part too.
Yeah. But the larger, so good job for you for getting out of the I'm not surprised argument and switching topics quickly. My hat's off to you. But the larger issue I had with this idea that Biden is somehow mentally deficient or he's got Alzheimer's or something. I mean, the dude's got a stuttering problem. He's been on record for decades that he's struggled with this all of his life. And to say that, somebody is mentally deficient just because they are not a good public speaker and they can fumble over their words, it's just drinking the fucking Kool-Aid. I mean, at the end of the day, there's nothing any more or any less mentally deficient in Biden's realm than there is with any other person that's running for office. Like legitimately running for office.
Right. All right. So if I'm reading this correctly on the House race, things that are decided currently, it's 214 Democrats to 196 Republicans. And stuff that hasn't closed yet, that would be a plus. If it closes as is, it'd be +7 for the Democrats, giving them 221. +18 for the Republicans, giving them 214.
It's a difference of 7?
Do it?
221, 214?
Yeah.
Huh.
Be a difference of 7 if it closes. If it closes as is, as there's a number of seats that are still pending and
Gotcha.
stuff like that.
I still think we're big closer to double digits, but if it's single digits, it's a larger issue, and clearly they need to make sure that they hold the House.
Right, and it looks like it's in the Senate side of things.
It's a little confusing. Not confusing. It's more complicated was the word I was looking for, actually.
46 to 48,
and
with 1 leading Democrat and 3 leading Republicans, and then 2 non-major party.
Well, and so based on projections from what I was looking at yesterday, if things continue the way that they are right now, at least for the next 2 or 3 days, they're essentially going to be tied, and then there's going to be a runoff in Georgia. So the 2 seats in Georgia that are up, there's going to be a runoff in January.
Right.
And so so there's 2 ways to look at this, I think. I think if the Democrats are able to pull this off, is it worse for the country that the Democrats have all 3 branches of government, I guess, or both the Senate and the House and the presidency?
All right.
Or is it better that there's at least Republican control, at least if it's small? Is it better that that's the case? Because then we as in the Democrats have to reach across the aisle and compromise and that sort of thing, which I don't think that Biden is the type of politician that he would try to ram some things through anyway. So I don't even know if that's a decent argument, but
I mean, it's not really, you don't really have to ram it through when everybody's on board from the get-go. If both houses and the White House are blue, per se.
Well, it depends. I mean, if you're only up one, I mean, if it's only one that you're up by, I mean, you could always have one person that is concerned about their constituents in their own hide, and then they, could pull a Collins from Maine and
Right.
and
certainly you couldn't do an amendment. You don't have enough for
2/3.
You're right. You don't have enough to do an amendment.
Sure.
So,
I don't know.
Yeah, better off's a good question. I mean, me not putting myself in the same version of but we as a country, are we better off if all 3 are together, or if they continue to be split at some level so that we can fight?
I would like it better if Mitch McConnell was not the speaker. I mean, I think the guy's trash. I mean, I really do. I mean, the Merrick Garland thing, I mean, you can't sit there and tell me that that was not absolutely 100% dog shit, and then you get a Supreme Court justice that is sworn in, just a couple of weeks prior to the election, and yet, 4 years ago they're telling Obama that he's not going to fill that seat, and I understand that this is politics and air quotes and all that shit, but I mean, Jesus Christ, can you be consistent at least?
Right.
And
I was gonna say, if you're
it's
gonna
ridiculous.
If he hadn't said it the way he said it and just didn't do it and stalled and played the more legitimate looking version of the game instead of saying out loud, "Oh, it's an election year, we're going to wait," because they just opened the door for having to deal with that on the other side.
I mean, and it's not tongue in cheek here. I mean, people had voted already. I mean, there were mail-in votes that had already been sent in already. People were we were already voting, and yet, we're already saying that it's yes, we're going to fill the seat.
Yeah. Speaking of seats getting filled by people that vote too soon, apparently a dead guy won a seat in Montana. I shared that story with y'all.
I don't think that's the first time that's happened.
No, there's an Iowa one we've referenced before, but
whatever. I don't care. I mean, how does that? So I don't know is it Montana? Is that what you said?
I think it was Montana. Let me see if I can find the story. Go ahead.
Because then the question ends up being: is it a runoff? Is it the governor fills the seat? Is it the member of the party fills the seat? Like if a Democrat is the one that was dead that won, does that mean that there's a Democrat that's sort of put into place? Is it the runner? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Who knows what that individual?
That was
state
what
does.
the story was mostly about. North Dakota. I apologize.
Okay.
You would think they've usually got some kind of process in place for it.
Yeah.
If this happens, it goes to the next person.
Right. The headline is North Dakota governor can't fill dead candidate's seat.
Can't as in doesn't have the authority.
That's what. And I read through it. Yeah. Governor Burgum has no authority to appoint a executive to a state house seat won by a Republican candidate who died before election. So says the Attorney General of that state.
So is the governor a Democrat?
I don't think so. I don't know.
So
the candidate was the dead candidate probably was. I don't know.
Right, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
So if because otherwise you would think that the party would, if the Republican Party had what was the party of the individual that was dead, you would think the Republican Party would just say, "Well, we need to get a better candidate because this guy's dead."
Right. Let me echo the.
Like if the governor's going to end up, putting somebody else in there from the opposing party, you would want to take your chances with somebody that could potentially win the election, not have the governor, appoint somebody that clearly is going to be a part of the party that person is from.
All right. So that I'd seen the headline before, and it goes back in conversation to the your bet with Max.
About whether or not Trump will win.
No, about whether or not what happens.
Oh, whether or not Biden would actually.
Right. And so I started searching. I started typing in the search bar, what happens if, and the first thing on the autofill, if President-elect dies.
Well, it's Kamala Harris is the president. I mean, that's pretty clear.
That would be the assumption.
Yeah. I also want to point out, I think that's sort of, I think that there's rhetoric. Obviously, there's rhetoric in politics, but I think when we start having conversations about whether or not somebody's actually mentally fit for an office, I think that we're going into territory that is not healthy. There's not a single person that's on Capitol Hill that believes that Biden is mentally deficient. But if you convince a populace that is already doesn't have a whole lot of critical analysis to begin with, it's very easy to have their votes go against that individual just because they think, Jesus Christ, he's fucking knocking on death's door. Why would I vote for this person? It's dangerous rhetoric. It's not just rhetoric that is just a typical part of the political process. That is dangerous because I actually truly believe that Max believes that there's something mentally deficient with Biden. I really believe that he believes that.
Right.
And you really got to be drinking the Kool-Aid if that's the case. You really got to be drinking it.
It says, LA Times says, if a candidate dies before Election Day, the party nominated would designate a successor, most likely the party's vice presidential nominee, and the votes would be counted as if the candidate were still alive. The votes would then accrue to the late candidate's running mate, but each state has its own rules for how to handle the vote, some with more foresight and imaginative planning than others, which could launch a barrage of legal challenges and political maneuvering. But that's if he dies.
That's if.
Before Election Day.
That was if Trump died before Election Day. The sitting president going into the election.
Right. Well, right. Or even if it was, in this case, if it's Biden died on November 2nd, the party gets to choose, but the assumption would be that it would be the running mate. And if there's early voting, it would go to, it would count as that person's stuff. If the winner of the most electoral vote dies between Election Day and December 14th, that's the day each state's electoral voters meet to cast their ballots. By most assessments, the states could require the electoral votes go to the candidate's running mate, but it is not set in stone in every state. Again, cue the lawyers. If the winning candidate dies after the college votes and recorded, but before the results are certified, Congress would upend everything. When Congress meets in January to review the votes, members are allowed to raise objections to any state's tally. If the two chambers agree to uphold the objection, Congress could then award the state's electoral votes to a different person. The most likely scenario, however, is that under the 20th Amendment governing presidential succession, the mantle would fall on the newly elected vice president's shoulders. So, yeah. That's how that might work.
There's a lot of stuff.
Not that it's going to happen.
There's a lot of stuff that's on topic that we are, even with 2 hours, we don't have time to talk about.
All right, well, go hit it.
I don't know, like, which one are we going to talk about first? We want to talk about the fact that Trump lost. We want to talk about who are the candidates in 2024. What does Trump do in the next 4 years? What does he do in the next fucking 60-some days, however many days it is? I mean, there's a lot of stuff that, I mean, I don't care what we talk about, but, I mean, we could talk about this for the next week, really. I mean, there's just...
I mean, the real one is, okay, so I think the next 60 days is an interesting conversation, whether he just spends this entire 60 days taking any back channel, any sideways, any figuring ways to try to change this. Does at any point until January, does at any point he actually give up and just accept the reality that's in front of him? That's a question. If he does, if we get another week in here and all this stuff actually settles down and it's very clear, does he admit reality and then try to do anything with his last 2 months, or does he just sit down and do nothing? That's really, I mean, that's the questions to me. I could see him continuing to put on the show, but at the same time trying to push through the last couple things that he wants to do, knowing he's on his way out. That would be my prediction for his actions. I think he will continue to make it and be vocal about they stole this election and all that kind of bullshit, which is not good and it's not okay. But I think at some point the reality will set in. But I think just for the sake of that's what he thinks people want him to do, he'll keep talking about it.
I don't think anybody. What do you mean by people?
I mean the 70 million that voted for him, that quote drank the Kool-Aid, that thinks that agree that it got stolen from him, whether it can be proven to them in any reasonable manner that he's wrong.
They only agree that because he started it.
I agree with you. I'm just saying. I think it's an echo chamber it's an echo chamber situation where whatever he yelled at first, but they're all yelling it back at him now. And if he quits, then he doesn't want to look like a quitter to them.
Well, he doesn't want to look like a loser. I mean, first and foremost, like he's talked about that ad nauseum, that he's not a loser, and so in some ways this was the only play that he was ever going to have, unless he just lost by 20 million votes and lost 2/3 of the states. I mean, this was the only play he was ever going to have. So to think that he was going to say anything other than this was stolen from me and this was rigged, like he's said the entire time he's been in office with everything that has been against him. I mean, I don't think anybody is shocked that this is what he's doing. I guess for me, it's less about that he's doing it, but the question for me is, why is he doing it? Aside from the fact he doesn't want to look like a loser. I mean, is it really all that? I mean, I think some of this is, and this goes down to the dangerous rhetoric scenario. I wonder how much of this, for me, at least 51% of this it's less about him being a loser and more about if he continues to sow this discontent and that this was stolen from him, this actually benefits Republicans in the long run, because these people that don't have critical analysis, that only read Facebook headlines that we've talked about here quite a bit, continue to question the motives of Democrats, which is exactly what you want to have occur in a binary system. And so in some ways, he's just preparing the party for 2024 and putting them in a good position to keep those votes strictly red. In some ways, I mean, like to me, it seems like it's more about rhetoric at this point, and he's the vessel for this, and so the McConnells and the Lindsey Grahams of the world are like, okay, this is fucking wackadoodle, and he's going to be out on January the 7th. But at the end of the day, if it means that we get more voters that are thinking that Democrats are bad people because they stole the election, then in 2024 and maybe more importantly 2022, they're going to be voting red because they think that the Democrats stole the election, and so I think that that's a part of it. I really do. I think that he doesn't want to be seen as a loser. He's talked about that forever. And this benefits the Republican Party to make this fucking boogeyman in the room scenario be something of reality, which it's not at all. But I think that that's a significant part of this. I really do.
I mean, I mean, that's not, I have no qualms with. There's nothing to argue there for me.
Yeah, and I think it's sad. I mean, it really does, because it means that like we're not really talking about policy issues here. We're not talking about whether or not. Okay, so on X topic, it doesn't mean that I can make a healthy decision about whether or not a party, assuming this is what we're doing in the first place, which is a different subject altogether. But like, this is not a policy question. This is not a Democrats fall here or Republicans fall here sort of discussion. It's a Republicans are sort of nurturing this idea that the Democrats are somehow or another rigging things, and so I should push back at anything blue. Forget about what the policy is. Forget about whether the policy could actually benefit me if it's a Democrat policy. I'm not even going to entertain that as a thing, and that's dangerous. Like it truly, and like I'm not trying to exaggerate or be dramatic here, but that's dangerous if you're not even concerned about the policies and you're just brainwashed on this idea that the other, whoever the other in the binary system is the problem, not their policy.
Right.
That's a fucking issue.
Right. I think it's a long running issue, but I think it's much more clear and present in the current situation than it has been in others. But I don't know. I get the only thing I would argue is that it's Trump is not the exclusive in this conversation, or the
Trump is absolutely
even the beginner.
He's the beginner at this point. Yes, he is. I mean, like, there's no way anybody can make. I mean, I'm happy to have this argument with you. There's no way anybody can convince me that the extent to which Trump is pushing this sort of binary dig into the trenches and hate your foe. I mean, he's nurturing that with this particular dialogue about the election right now. It has never been at this level ever, and he is making this worse. He's making this sort of me versus you mentality worse.
Right, I agree with that.
In the nature of the last 24 hours of making sort of, you make your decision that this thing has been rigged or that these votes are illegitimate, and then you work backwards to try to find some sort of way to convince people that this sort of stuff exists. That's not how this works. You find the facts first, and then you make the conclusion. He made the conclusion and worked backwards. I mean, this is 100% on Trump. So, I don't know how anybody could make the argument otherwise. I mean,
I don't know. What are we're referencing right now, and what's happening in post-election, and him pitching a fit saying that he got it stolen from him? Sure, but in the Party A is the good party, Party B is the bad party, and I want to do whatever I can to make Party B look bad because I'm part of Party A. That's not new. I'm
not saying it's not new. I'm just saying
that's how I started this. Is like I'm not saying
you said it's exclusive to Trump. I'm saying that the degree to which it is right now, it has never been like this before. It like you are convincing an entire voting section of the country that this was an illegitimate election. Like, really? Like I get the it benefits your party if you can sort of paint the other as something that you don't want to be a part of or be affiliated with or whatever. But like, Jesus Christ, this is not like we've seen it before where you're convincing people that the other people are bad. This is worse than that. Like, you're convincing people that the Democrat, you're trying to convince people that the Democrats are essentially stealing an election. Like that is a completely fucking different realm than, anything else, any other rhetoric that's been out there about making the other party bad. This is completely worse. This is the fabric of where we are right now. Like the fabric of our country is this, and like, we can't accept that. We can't say that this is how things have always been. It's never been like this before, ever. Like we should outright reject this. But you know, the few adults that are still in the room, the Lindsey Grahams of the world, they can't do that, because if they do, then they potentially alienate those folks. And so since he's taken this trip down wackadoodle lane, they've got to follow with him, because otherwise somebody's going to. Like, there's going to be some, you know, no talent ass clown that's going to be Republican running in 2024 that is going to just say, okay, this is going to benefit me. I could potentially run for president. I'm just going to follow the lead here, because if I don't, somebody else will. And it's not healthy. We're not talking about policy issues then. We're talking about tinfoil hats and aliens are landing in my backyard and all this other fucking complete out of fucking nowhere Twilight Zone bullshit. It's like, this is not healthy. It's not healthy. Like, we can't have discourse if you're convincing people that the fucking election was stolen from somebody. Like, how do we even begin having conversations about policy? Which, again, is naive of me to even assume that it's about policy to begin with, which is maybe the big elephant in the room anyway. But, I mean, this is not, well, this is how politics is. No, this is completely different. To me, I don't know how, I would love to hear an argument saying that this is just like any other time. It's not. Like, this is completely different.
No, I'm not saying it's like any other time. It's
Okay.
it is an exaggeration of what has been. It was my point. I don't think the premise of Team B is bad. I'm on Team A, and whatever Team B is bad is not new. And again, I'm not disagreeing with you that the level and even the specific of this one being outside the norm of something that either party was willing to go to in that the other guy's bad conversation. I'll agree with you on that, but again, I think the partisanship that has been a thing for a long time has been a thing for a long time, and I don't think Trump is a unique level of what's already there. Is, I guess, my point.
I mean, it's sad. Like, we can't even have dialogue about potential disagreements, because we are apparently too scared to have the conversation about the disagreements, because and maybe that's so I'm getting a little ahead of myself. What is it about the Republicans currently that makes them not want to have discussions about policy issues that we can disagree on and try to find compromise in? That it's, I guess, easier maybe to go down this tinfoil hat road and really dig in and make this us versus them? Is it just because, you know, fuck it, at the end of the day, the votes don't matter. Being in power is what matters. Is that what it is?
I mean, I don't know, going back to when one of the times we had Matt Shears here talking to him about it, it's, you know, he's like, I don't like the way this is working right now. And
what is this?
He's out there campaigning and doing fundraisers and shit. And he's like, the easiest way for me to raise money, and he's the chair of the Knox County Democratic Party. He's like, the easiest way for me to raise money is we're going to stop Trump. Even though all the candidates he represents are local level candidates, they don't have any direct whatever. He's like, that's not the way I want to play politics.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, I'm out here trying to raise money and do the best I can for the candidates that our party locally is supporting, and I have to grapple with that. It's like, how many different people are in that position, whether it's just individuals or, you know, different activist groups or whatever it is that are like, you know, we have nothing. It's just an easy way to play the game. It's the wrong way to play the game, but it's an easy way to get the result I want. The result I want as Matt Shears is to raise money for my candidates. The easiest way for me to do that is to shit on Trump. Which, whether the point being, Trump is just, it's the easy way for them to play the game. It's the simplification that we always talk about is impossible to do, but that's the simplest way for them to play the game, and so that's why they're playing the game that way.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that, and I would probably agree with him in that regard, but the shit that could actually affect everyday Americans is that stuff is never addressed then. Because we are distracted by this fucking bullshit. It's no wonder why we don't have discourse about topics, because we have people that are in positions of power that just outright refuse to have those conversations.
Right.
And so it's
because they don't need. I mean, again, like you said, it's the quest. It's the quest for power. It's not the quest for.
Yeah, I mean, it's very frustrating. I mean, like there truly are topics that and issues that we could both sides could compromise on, and it, you just sort of wonder, is that even the goal, really? I mean, right. I know that's naive, and like I get
right.
I get it's sort of a rhetorical question, but I mean, maybe at the end of the day, maybe nobody really gives a shit about any of these issues, like truly anybody, including us who vote, and maybe it's more just maybe the entire thing is just smoke and mirrors, and
Actually, that's it. Like, because I always argue that my favorite thing about college football is the dumbass system that they do for the playoffs and stuff like that.
The current dumbass system?
Well,
or the one
either. I mean, for our lifetimes of it, some people consider this one better than the old one, but they want more, more in the playoff or whatever. But my argument, because I like to argue, was this is why college football is great, because in November, December, we sit around and argue. We get to sit around and argue about who's going to be there, but there's no consequence. It's not the end of the fucking world if my 13-0 team and your 13-0 team and those other 13-0 teams, and then whoever the selection committee does their fucking thing, and then our team doesn't get to go to the playoffs or whatever, and we get to pitch fit and we get to argue about it. But there's no consequence to that. But the argument's fun. It's fun to sit there and go, well, we beat this team and that team, and it's like it's fun to have the argument, but there's no consequence in it.
Okay.
And I think that's the comparable that I'm trying to, like, I don't know. I see it as a sad similarity, is that the argument's the fun part, but there is consequence to the politics.
Well, we don't even have arguments though, really. I mean, like, you go back to the primary 4 years ago with Trump. I mean, he's talking about Medicare for all. I mean, he said that in the primary. Like, he didn't remove Obamacare. He tried, failed. I mean, McCain was a large part in that, not happening, and so was the Supreme Court for that matter. But, all these quote unquote hot topic issues, I mean, he didn't do any of that.
Right.
He didn't address any of it. And, I have, it's no secret to anybody that I have not been a fan of Trump since he's been in office. But at the same time, it also makes you wonder, like, if he is a bumbling moron, which in some ways I think that he's maybe the best politician ever, and he's also a bumbling moron. You would think that, I mean, we didn't, to our knowledge at least, we didn't have any, we had no major international or foreign issue occur against us as a result of Trump being an idiot, which either tells me that either he's not as much of an idiot behind closed doors as we think that he is, or there are people in positions of power that can convince him to make the right decision at the right time.
Or not let him make the decision.
Right, yeah, sure.
Kind of leave him out of the loop and
do
whatever.
Yeah,
right.
So and if that's the case, then maybe this office isn't as important as we all put stock into, perhaps. Like maybe, as we've said in here, on this podcast quite a bit, local and state elections matter more than the federal, which I do tend to agree with. But, like, again, you got to think, if he is this, such a sensitive guy that doesn't want to be seen as a loser, et cetera, then, you would think that he would make poor decisions when it comes to, like, military involvement, or that some dictator somewhere would push him in a direction that he or she would anticipate what Trump's fucked up response would be in order to, play the guy a little bit. I mean, maybe that happened and we just don't know about it because they can't release that stuff to the public. But, I don't know. I think it's, to this point, it's a miracle that we all think, not we all, some of us that think that Trump is an idiot. I mean, he hasn't fucked any of that up. Right.
And I mean, I guess to put a little bit of levity into the current and whether he's going to leave office peacefully or whatever, like, when he was elected, it was get ready for World War III, and now that Biden won, everybody's freaking out about a civil war possibility, and it's like
I think that, I mean, so I understand the spirit of what you're saying, but I think saying get ready for World War III, I think that's You know, it depends on who you're talking to. I mean, there are fringe people on both sides, and I wasn't ready for World War III. I was concerned that we didn't have a. What the hell is that? You hear that?
Yeah, that's the piano that the cat has decided to put a little bit of theme music. That was like perfectly timing. We're talking about war and shit, and
wow,
ding 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 ding. Thanks, Kitty.
I don't even know what the fuck I was saying.
I was just saying how, like, you know, like
you're ready for World War III.
Yeah, I mean, I just it's a broad brush of the paintbrush, and I don't agree with, you know, I didn't like the fact that it seemed like that Trump is not a very doesn't seem like a very nice guy. Not that I want somebody that's in there is baking fucking cookies for people, but he seems like the wrong kind of asshole.
I mean, I think it made a lot of people uneasy how much he kind of buddied up to Kim Jong-un.
Sure.
By being like, you know, one of his best friends, like, you know, their quote unquote love letters and whatnot.
Yeah. So, and if you go back to when Mitt Romney was running against Obama, there was a question made to Obama. You go back. All of this is, you know, videoed on YouTube. There was a question made to Obama, posed to Obama, that was, you know, would you sit down and would you have a conversation with the folks in North Korea? And he said, you know, I would entertain that as something that we should do. And then, you know, the Republicans just went all up in arms. Oh, you're naive. Like, why would you sit and have a conversation with Kim Jong-un? I mean, like, he's a dictator. He's got nuclear weapons, and like, fucking Trump goes over there and they're playing hopscotch across the parallel there. I mean, like, again, it's all bullshit. It's all smoke and mirrors. But Jesus, can we be fucking consistent on both sides? Like, I'm not saying that this is strictly a Republican issue. I'm just saying, fuck, man.
The Obama one was with conditions, though. Like, he was very vocal about, if they do X.
Sure, but the Republicans still pushed back, and they said, Jesus, why would you meet with him at all? And then, you know, fucking Trump goes over there, and then it's like, oh, Jesus, look at this diplomat right here. He is who we need. I was like, wait a minute. Fucking 8 years ago, you know, the fucking Kenyan National was talking about maybe going over to having a conversation if X amount of things were in place. And
Asians hate black people. I mean, that's just true.
I don't know what the fuck that means.
It's the wrong person to send over there is my point.
I don't agree with that at all.
I don't either. I'm just making the fucking joke.
Oh. Kim Jong-un was it? Dennis Rodman's like one of his best friends.
Yeah, I know. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyway, the point is, I mean, you sit back and you see some of this stuff, and it's like, it's really difficult for me to have any to say that the Republicans have any credibility at all. I mean, it's very difficult for me to say that.
Right, and I'll agree with you and extend it to federal politicians in general, both parties in general, on the top level at least.
I mean, the concern I have with that, though, is there's a lot of times folks end up moving through the local and state levels and end up becoming a federally elected official. So I mean, if that ends up being the case, it's like what changes? I mean, do they get elected to the Senate, and all of a sudden, you know, they go through a series of PowerPoint education classes with their party, and they realize that, holy shit, this is the rhetoric I can do, and none of that other stuff that I did before actually is going to help me remain in power. I mean, maybe that happens. I don't know.
To a level, yeah. There's a
I don't know.
Tulsi Gabbard, when she was on Rogan, talks about like her first day in the Senate and like their like orientation classes and stuff like that they do, and it's like here's your office and here's all the other Democrats' office, and down the hallway that's the Republicans. Don't worry about them. Like, we don't talk to them. Like, I mean, pretty straight up. Like, you come into this house as whatever party you're in, and this is our team and this is who we work with. And I mean, like, that's what she was told when she went there.
Right. I'm not saying that information is incorrect. I'm just saying that, you know, if you're saying that it's.
Did she mention who was telling her this?
I don't recall. I mean, she may have. I don't remember.
Anyway, it's you know, can you imagine if Obama had said, "I'm gonna stay for 12 years"? You know, like.
I'm sure there would have been people that have been like, hell yeah.
No, I'm talking about the dialogue that have come out of the mouths of the alleged, you know, conservative family values Constitution, Bill of Rights people.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's difficult for me to take them seriously at all, and by them I mean the Republicans right now. I mean, you got a guy in here that's just making shit up, and like and for their own political hides, there's not a single person that is a serious contender for in 2024 that is unequivocally saying you're fucking wrong, dude. Like, it just hasn't happened.
And and I'll say the same thing I said a second ago. I totally agree, but
I'm not saying you're not.
There's a few that have come out and have recognized that Joe Biden, according to all the polls, is the president-elect.
Sure, but I mean, this was after Fox News of all news companies have, if Fox News comes out and says that Joe Biden is president-elect, it's really difficult for Trump to push back too damn much because, I mean, that's essentially state-run media at this point. So, I don't know. There's no reason why we can't be a little bit more forceful about what this idiot is saying. But again, this is assuming that the approach behind that is not, another form of rhetoric, which is a dangerous form of rhetoric that does not involve more folks into the system. And maybe that's another part of it as well, is that, if you have more people voting and somehow or another you get some of them that can be intelligent, I mean, which is a stretch. I don't know. It's just... I feel worse today than I did 4 years ago when Trump was elected. Like I feel like that there's nobody on that side that is that's willing to shut some of this shit up, and I think it's mostly just to protect their political hide.
Right, and that's the problem with this. I mean, and that's the concern with actually looking at the numbers from this election, is that it doesn't seem like the public wants it to shut up either.
What do you mean?
I mean, just as far as, we got the largest election in the history of the United States for the president, and Trump got more votes this time than he did last time.
Mm-hmm.
And so more people than last time want Trump there and want this shit. So there's no, right, like you were saying, there's no, the political incentive for other Republicans to be like, you know what, he's out of here. We tried, didn't work right. Let's move forward. There's no political will for that to be the stance moving forward. To be like, okay, that was the thing. It happened. We're moving on. It's a bad ex-girlfriend, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I mean,
there's no political need for it,
and I think that's a problem.
Right,
I really do. I think it's a problem. Again, assuming that that there's not there was a gang of 8, if I recall correctly. This has been years ago that are in with like. The members of Congress that are involved with like the super classified stuff. There's a very small number of those individuals that are on board with that sort of thing, and so maybe really at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter who's in office, and all of this is rhetoric, and we can be pissed off that somebody won or be elated that somebody did win, but at the end of the day, maybe really ultimately once you're in there, it doesn't matter because the system essentially is going to take care of itself regardless of who's in there. I don't know.
Right. And yeah, that would be a good silver lining to look back at if that's maybe. I guess depending on who's in the 8, but
typically it's 4 and 4. Typically, but I have to look it up. I can't remember the last time that they met. I don't even know if they actually talk about the times that they do meet. But it's frustrating because you feel like on the one hand you want to feel like you've got some power as a voter and as a citizen, as a tax-paying person in the United States, and on the other hand you feel like, fuck, this is all fucking smoke and mirrors bullshit. Right,
and I mean when we were in the text conversation the other day, we were talking about kind of this kind of same thing, and you said it's all smoke and mirrors, and that's why I wanted you specifically in that conversation to clarify what you meant by it, because I've already said it twice now. This is the third time. It's like, I agree that you were referencing that it as Trump and the bullshit and what's going on right now or whatever, where sure, yes, I agree that is a smoke and mirrors bullshit, but I think it as a whole is the smoke and mirrors bullshit. It's the, going back to why we argue that local is more important and stuff like that. Like how much, it goes back to a central theme question that I've asked a bunch of times and we've kind of touched on and come and go, is like, how much should the federal government be involved in our day-to-day lives? What are they supposed to be doing? Whether it's by the rule of the Constitution or just your personal opinion, what are they supposed to do? What is Washington, D.C. supposed to do for you as a resident here day to day? How are they supposed to inform your worldview? And is that something that they should deal with, or is that something that we should have either the county or city or state level? Like, where should that responsibility lie?
Is that a rhetorical question?
No, I mean it's a conversation starter, I guess. It's the sense of if like as you're saying, I don't like, my argument would be that we need to shrink the federal government to a very small core list of things that only the federal government can deal with because an individual state or city or county can't. But to have the federal government do it, like, because it's like the stimulus package that went out and the unemployment thing, which unemployment usually comes from the state, but the CARES Act thing, there was a new unemployment that came down federally, and it's just like we talked about. It doesn't make sense in certain places that unemployment is too much money, in other places it's too little money, and if it comes out of the federal government, it should be equal because that's who they're supposed to deal with all of us equally. It doesn't matter what state we're in. But here in Tennessee versus California, New York, a $400 a month unemployment bonus goes completely different directions as far as how well you can survive inside that system.
Mm-hmm.
And so, again, for me, I guess a better way to put it is most of my libertarian argument is against the federal government more than the state and local. I can deal with state and local handling some things that my libertarian says they shouldn't. But mostly the federal government, I want them out of day-to-day stuff. They don't need to be in our lives for as much stuff as I think they are.
Are we going down we're debating libertarianism again?
No, I'm just saying I think
I'm trying to figure out what brought you to this point with the idea that you don't want to necessarily have the libertarian argument. I'm trying to figure out how what you just said fits into what we are talking about.
I guess going back to the original question of in the three levels of government that, or three or four depending on where you live, levels of government that we deal with on a day-to-day basis, which one should handle what? What should the federal government's job be to you and me on a day-to-day basis? And if we go and look and even when we do get the rare occasion where they're actually talking policy, is that a policy that we agree should be a federal level policy talk? I guess that's my thing, because most of the time when they do talk policy, like CARES Act and stuff like that, I think that was a failure in who should handle it. I think one of the things I actually liked about Trump is he pushed a lot of stuff on states, and whether it was him just advocating, he's like, I don't know what to fucking do, deal with the governors.
Which I think is actually more accurate.
Which might be, but I appreciate that because I think a governor should be better capable, maybe not financially, but at least understanding his citizenry better because it's a smaller group of people. And he has more people that are closer to it and on the ground and stuff like that of handling a situation locally than DC does. Again, going to the $1,200 stimulus thing, $1,200 goes a little ways here. That didn't go anywhere. You might pay your third of rent in New York City with $1,200 as a stimulus check.
Okay, so I mean, just using that example, I mean, if that's the case, then I mean, so are we saying that the people in New York City would get more money?
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, with all due respect, I don't think you can say I don't know if that's your argument. I mean, if your argument is the $1,200 is not going to go very far in New York City, but you don't know if they should get more money, then why even bring that up as an argument? I guess is what I'm saying. I'm not trying to be an asshole. I'm just saying.
Well, no, I'm thinking, but it would be something that inside the COVID situation, is because that's why we're here. Well, excuse me. Again, is that the governor of New York would have more understanding of what his citizenry needs.
I don't disagree with that as a philosophical statement. I'm just like...
So yeah, probably I would assume yes, because of the cost of living there is different than the cost of living here. Plus their tax revenue inside the state's bigger than our tax revenue in our state and stuff like that.
Okay.
I would say there's a lot of factors, but all that complicated stuff coming from a person that's closer to it makes more sense to me than the federal government dropping it on everybody equally. I think if the federal government is going to do it, it should be equal because they're supposed to represent us equally. But I think as best we could, because I mean, I don't know, you had different places shutting down and changing things at different times because of what was on the ground in front of them. And so you had people getting $1,200 checks in Montana that hadn't had a case in the state yet. I don't know if that's 100% true. I'm just throwing out a hypothetical. Yeah,
every state had it by that time. I mean, the spirit of what you're saying, I understand. I just like again logistically, I don't know how you can make that work. Because it means that there's no way you start with X budget with X amount of money across the board to people, and then that budget is going to be astronomically higher as a result of if you live in say New York City, using your example, it's going to be. I mean, they're going to require more because the money's going to need to go a little bit further, and so. I don't know. I don't even know what the hell we're arguing about anymore, really. But I don't disagree with the premise that the people at the state and local level should at least have a better idea of how to take care of their areas better than some person in a federally elected. But at the same time, I mean, the governor might. But shit, I mean, if we have 2 senators that are here, 2 congressmen that are here, I mean, they have an office in D.C. What the hell's the difference? You know what I mean? So like we say, we don't want the federal government in our lives, but Jesus, I mean, are we saying that the governor is here, like physically here? Are we saying Bill Lee is here in Nashville more than, say, Tim Burchett? I mean, probably not. I mean, they're probably here just about the same amount of time, really. The only difference is Burchett has an office here and he has an office in D.C. So like, I think it's easy for us to say the federal government needs to have less of an involvement in our life. And we need to sort of understand and appreciate the fact that, just because that they are federal workers doesn't mean that they don't also live here.
Okay.
So, I mean, I guess I just don't understand what really then you're advocating for, if that's the case.
I mean, I guess one of the assumptions would be if the federal government isn't involved in as much stuff as it is, it should have way less budget, which should take way less tax revenue, which would give states more room to wiggle and raise money in different ways than they are currently, because they're not losing their citizenry isn't losing as much to the federal government because the federal government isn't spending much and blah blah and so on. I mean, I don't know if we're going back down the libertarian road again, but I don't know if that's true. I mean, without going down that damn. Buddy, you see something down there? There's a rabbit. Probably another mouse.
The point of the only thing I'm trying to say without trying to go down the damn, spend the next hour and 25 minutes talking about libertarianism. I mean, what are you going to cut? I mean, come on. I mean, what are you going to cut out of the federal budget to actually make it a state thing? I mean, you said you want to get rid of FEMA, which I think is nonsense. We're going to have to agree to disagree. I mean, how does Florida take care of hurricanes? I mean, what are they going to do how are they going to come up with the money to rebuild? And, how do they get people capital down there to fix homes when shit hits the fan? I mean, I don't know, man. Like I understand in theory what you're trying to say here about making sure, quote, the federal government is limited in their scope in our everyday life. But I mean, I think that in and of itself is rhetoric. I mean, I don't know how to make it. There might be some areas, very small areas, that you can say, well, if we cut this out, that might be helpful. But like having some sort of major change in the system, I just think it's naive. I don't think it's possible. I really don't. I mean, like, I don't think any sane person would say, let's remove FEMA completely. I mean, come on. I don't buy that. I truly see, like, the people that are 100% on board with that sort of stuff. It's rhetoric. It's I don't want the government to tell me what to do thing, and it's, it's not gonna work. So, it's just my take. We need Max here to argue with me. Go ahead.
He's too stubborn to listen, so it's easier to continue arguing with him.
Well, it depends. You got to say something so if you sometimes you can say something, and if he looks up from his phone long enough, you're like, okay, let me go down this road because we'll get his attention, even if I don't necessarily agree with what I'm about ready to say.
Or wait for him to come out of the bathroom and drop some deep philosophical something.
Yeah, which is probably by accident, but that's okay.
It's hilarious. Like
the fact that he does it at all is actually
it's amazing. Nice. It cracks me up every time. Like,
and then you point it out to him, and then he's like, he tries to restate it. It was so much better the first time. Don't tell the joke a second time because it's better the first time around. I also want to point out that UT just lost to Arkansas.
Yes. And apparently they didn't bench him. I think
He get hurt?
Garantano got a concussion or something like that. He got waxed pretty good. But I don't know. I mean, it's a lot of money that doesn't. I don't know. I guess I want to see the receipts for what I'm spending on this government on all levels.
I don't disagree with that. I think that we all should have access to that. I mean, I don't have any issue with that whatsoever. But I mean,
speaking of, did the gentleman that came in Monday shed any kind of light that you can bestow upon us?
It's complicated.
Gotcha.
Is that a no?
No, I mean it's just. I mean it's.
I would turn that into the at the federal level as well.
I mean, I asked him I was like,
can we talk about who we're referring to?
Yeah, Ron McPherson. I've talked about it. I was excited for his interview for a long time. And I haven't decided what I want to do with it yet. I told him when I was talking to him, I was like, I will release the entire interview. I'm not gonna like chop it up and use it, but I'm debating on whether I want to try to do put it as more of a story and go in and do some research and pull the math and do that kind of stuff. Because I don't know. It's like, I don't know how to describe it. It's like you're trying to. It's a big, complicated thing, and I'm trying to understand it, and I don't have a reference for if that makes sense or not. Like, how much should it cost for the bus system to run in Knox County for the schools? It's like $20 million a year. It's a lot of fucking money. Is it an unreasonable amount of money? Is it more than it should be? I don't know. I don't know how much bus contracts are. Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, if this is the bus contract, and I mean, how many fucking bus contractors are there in Knox County? Probably not many. I don't know how that contract gets in place in the first place. And is it one of those, is it overcharged by the bus company? Or
I think that's the one weird thing is there's a lot of private contractors in Knox County. I guess people that own their own bus, basically.
Right.
And they're on private contractor that do the services for Knox County. I heard that was one issue of why Knox County calls snow days more often, because it's not city bus drivers that are out there.
A certain set of private contractors aren't going to take the risk, and so
we've got back roads, but at the same time, I wonder if it's those contractors. Enough of them are I can't get my bus out.
Right. So, but point being, point being, it's that's a big number, but I don't know what it
Right. How much it really cost.
Right. How much does it really cost? How much should it really cost? Is and especially something like that. I mean, that's not a broad industry where you have multiple vendors different people that do that. It's a very select whatever, and so it may not should cost that much, but it has to cost that much because that's the only provider you can do it with and stuff like that.
Yeah, we get three providers that are doing bidding contracts.
Right. And so, but they're probably all getting contracts. It's just. They're all fighting over the specific number. So I don't know. It's that's what I'm saying. It's I feel like I learned a lot of stuff from it, but I don't know how much of it is really presentable in the sense of getting to the bottom of anything specifically. Because I asked him a couple times, I was like, how much do you think it costs to, how much do you think it's costing the county to deal with federally mandated Department of Education stuff that's coming down from the Department of Education? And, he's like, I don't know how to really answer that question. There's this, that, and the other. One of the biggest, he did kind of lean into one of the bigger issues that they have is that some federal mandated thing, and he threw a specific, I'd have to go re-listen to it, but, that we only have 7 students in the county that would fall under that thing. Well, we have to hire at least a person for those 7 students. And then that person has to travel school to school and all this different stuff. And so, the state gives us budget for, it depends on the grade level, but he used first grade a couple times. For first grade, it's 20 kids. And the state for every 20 kids, the state gives you a teacher, budget-wise. And so after, if you have 21 kids, the state doesn't give you budget for 2 teachers because you didn't hit it's at 20, at 20, or at 20, at 40, at 60 is when you get another teacher, not at 25. Not at 30. Mm-hmm. But the state also mandates that for every 20 kids, you have to have a teacher. So if you have 25 kids, you have to have 2 teachers by mandate, but the state will only pay for 20 or a teacher for 20 kids.
Until you hit 40.
Right. And so they have to finagle from there. And I mean, again, one of the main things I was trying to just follow the dollar, literally, I go to the store and buy something for $100, which puts $10 into sales tax. And I was like, so what happens to that $10? Well, it's all of it goes to Nashville. but then it goes, and it's like it's hard to he's like, I don't even know how to. I don't know how that works, so I wouldn't know how to explain to you how that works as far as following the dollar. Because I've had different people on here talking about how it was back in the 80s, Knox County in the charter, Knox County income, 60-something% is required to go to Knox County schools. Like that is in our charter for Knox County schools, but nobody can explain to me what money they're talking about.
Well, nobody can explain to you because we just haven't talked to the right people.
Maybe I need to get the fucking
right. I'm not
comptroller in here. God damn it!
I guess so. Did you know that comptroller person exists?
Yes, I was aware of that.
Did you know that, Sam?
I believe it.
I'm not sure if
I think I've heard that word before.
I'm not sure if he knew that or not. Something about golf carts. I'm not sure.
I'd say golf cart, yeah.
Anyway, so going back to what we were talking about maybe 5 minutes ago, it seems like that this is just from my perspective, and correct me if I'm wrong. It seems like that you are more interested in finding out where the money's going and less interested in that the federal government needs to stop spending as much money. Because if you don't have a reference point for where things are going and that X, Y, and Z is too much money,
right?
Then like it's less of the federal government needs to get out of our lives, and
right,
more of it you want to find out where the money's going.
And when I was talking to Ron about it too, I was like from the beginning, I think one of the first things I said is like I have an assumption of we're spending more money than we should, but I also have an understanding that I don't know that. And that's what I'm trying to figure out.
And if that's the case, then it seems like we've made our I mean, it's no different than
right.
essentially what Trump was doing. Is
right.
that
I've made my conclusion.
Then you're working backwards
right.
to fill it in. And again, it's like...
I at least acknowledge it.
Well, that may be the first time that I've ever heard you acknowledge that. So this is...
I was saying, I told him that in the interview. I was like...
I know, I'm just saying that you and I have been having this libertarian conversation now for years, and I'm just saying that this is the first time I've heard you say that. So maybe this podcast is helpful for you, and you've been able to progress your thoughts on things enough to articulate that, I guess.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is that what you're looking for there?
I'm not looking for anything. I'm just I like all the time.
You're the best thing ever. You make me smarter every time we hang out.
I mean, sure, I agree with that, but at the end of the day, I think we are arguing over the wrong things when it comes to libertarianism. I mean, like if you don't know where the money's going, then you can't say we're spending too much money.
Okay. I don't want to go back down the road. So
okay, sounds good.
I mean, anyway, other news, Sam. What's going on? Because we're not going to argue about libertarianism.
No.
It'll come back. It always does.
No new news.
No new news.
No new news.
No new news.
Wow.
Oh, I guess we went over it on the election recap.
What?
What?
No, we redid ours. Oh, fuck! I cleaned up in here, and so I put some of the papers away.
Where'd you clean up at?
We had our election prediction.
Hold on. Where did we clean up at?
I mean, I had papers all over the place. I didn't have this new computer here. All the wiring,
computer is new, but that's not a cleanup. That's an add-on.
All the wiring is clean and put together neatly.
You dusted
so clean.
You dusted the wiring. Is that
I
what
glued my Star Wars figurines to their places so they don't fall over.
I'm just trying to get an operating definition of clean here.
I mean, I had a stack of papers floating around that we did our election predictions on, and
you guys did election predictions?
Yeah,
they gone.
Did you? And you said Trump would win.
I did. I mean, I stuck.
But
to
you
my
weren't
bet.
surprised.
All right.
Oh,
what did I say?
I stuck to my bet. You said Biden.
Yeah, I say Biden. Okay.
You didn't vote for him though.
No, I did not.
Who'd you vote for?
I voted for Biden.
Really? After the gun thing and the whole conversation we had on here?
Yeah. So
the real solution here is that you're full of shit.
Maybe. I'm not sure what that has to do with our current conversation. But I do not believe that Obama was in office for 8 years. Obama had zero interest whatsoever in going after guns. Like, it just wasn't a thing. And in a lot of ways, I think Biden is more moderate than Obama was. There's no way that Biden is going to go after guns. He's just not going to do it. So,
Okay.
And actually, the other thing, this is a side comment. So, about a muzzleloader. Do you know how complicated it is to actually get a gun now? Just period. Just without any sort of additional gun regulations. So it took me like 3 weeks to get a gun.
Really?
Yeah. Not like I couldn't get it or that, not that there was just a bunch of paperwork. They don't
inventory. Yeah.
Exist. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
It's insane. And so it's less about people are like
Did I tell you?
stockpiling weapons and thinking that the apocalypse is coming. maybe it's COVID and there's less folks in a factory making guns.
That's part of it.
Well, tell us since you know everything about it. Please.
No,
explain.
there was a story from Glock that was talking about it. They're having a hard time. The production is down because of COVID.
Okay.
And they're having a hard time keeping up with it. And,
I can confirm.
Well, I was just saying they were talking about how like they're having a hard time getting raw materials, but less of a hard time getting raw materials. That they're having more issues with getting enough guns too. And they it was like a Business Insider story or something like that. They were talking about how that it ended up being a strategic decision to not increase production. They had the ability to keep production where it was, but they were at a point where they would have to add a certain number of employees and new machines and all that kind of different stuff. And their concern is that as COVID passes or whatever it is that has brought this influx of gun purchasing on, that they would have all this investment in new equipment, and then the demand would drop back down to about more normal, and then they'd have all this this equipment that they hadn't paid off yet and all that stuff. And so they decided not to buy more stuff, to produce more. So it's not that they were unable to produce, they were just unable to produce to the demand. And so that's part of why that's part
Here's
of the
why that's dog shit. I was looking to buy a muzzleloader. I'm not looking to buy a handgun. I'm not looking to buy an AK-47. I'm looking to buy a muzzleloader, which takes about an eternity to reload. So if the thought process is we can't keep up with the potential demand of, the guns that people may want to purchase, holy shit. Like, you would think that the typical sort of supply chain of muzzleloaders would be like it always is. I mean,
I would think you would retool a muzzleloader line into other. I mean, I think you would take stuff that you have for that production off of muzzleloader production onto handguns or
I have
other
absolutely
rifles.
no idea.
That would be my assumption. I don't know either, but that would be my assumption. That's what I would do if I'm doing
the
it.
equipment would be pretty different.
I would think so too.
Go
I mean,
to
like
a muzzleloader rifle to a handgun.
Yeah,
totally different machinery.
Yeah, I mean,
okay, or to
I would think so.
Some sort
another
of
rifle,
some sort of
another rifle, maybe
some sort of AR or something like that.
An AR and a muzzleloader?
No.
Okay,
like you're literally loading it through the muzzle.
Okay, how about
that's what it is.
How about
like
just raw materials? How about
rifle,
I'm going to not use raw materials on a muzzleloader? Is that an acceptable theory?
Just say from a muzzleloader to another rifle. It's more logistical.
Whatever. How about just raw steel? How's that? Is that okay? I'm going to not use raw steel on muzzleloaders. I'm going to use raw steel on other stuff.
I mean, that's assuming that the steel is actually manufactured here. It's probably not.
Yeah.
I mean, most of our steel. The only reason I know this is my dad used to work for a steel factory in Detroit, but most of our steel that was manufactured here was sent overseas, so we lost the jobs. Part of the reason. Well, a number of reasons, but Detroit is no longer what it used to be. But that's one of the reasons.
But
just
billets of steel, or like already.
Like they made it in the. We used to make it here, like we had a blast furnace, and we would make that stuff here, and we put it on a train and send it across. Well, it went to Ford and GM and all the auto manufacturing places in Detroit, but it was just easier to. And well, it wasn't easier. It was less money to make it overseas, and having it shipped over here in a boat was more cost efficient than paying the workers at the time $18 an hour, which back then was a hell of a lot of money.
Yeah, goes back to that conversation that you've challenged to answer that question. That's not.
I've challenged to answer the question.
You've challenged me to answer the question of how do we do it.
Yeah, I'm still
50,
waiting.
60, 70 years ago.
Still waiting on that.
And, I mean that was one of my gut answers right there, is that we sent it overseas.
Sure, and yet we didn't save anything. The consumer didn't save anything.
I agree.
That's not at all what I was trying to say. What I was trying to say was we had the ability to make that here. He just wants that particular teddy bear.
It's a koala. It's not even a bear.
Koala bear?
Koalas aren't bears. Am I right?
Use your fancy little computer there.
I'm pretty sure.
Koalas.
I do not believe koalas are part of the bear family. No.
You've never heard of koala bear?
I mean, everybody says koala bear, but that is a misnomer, as they say.
This is the science guy now. All of a sudden, this is amazing.
I mean, it's a bad thing that I know things just because it's random and not 100% pertinent to anything else in the world.
No, that's not it at all. I'm just.
I think it's more like, like pandas aren't bears.
Now, see,
or the
to
giant
illustrate my
pandas.
stupidity, how do you spell koala?
I have no idea.
Koala.
Yeah, I figured it out.
Well, Google did.
Yep, Koala.
No. That is my Google result. No. Our koalas bears. I'm sorry, it's a Bing result. I'm on Microsoft.
God.
It's a Bing result, but anyway, predictions. I predicted Trump and I was wrong.
But you're not surprised by that.
Sam predicted Biden and he was correct. We both predicted Haggerty. We were correct. We both predicted Burchett. We were correct. We both predicted Becky Massey. We were correct. Gloria Johnson. We both predicted. That was correct. And I think my sub prediction on that was that would be the second closest race on my ballot, and I believe I was wrong. I believe that was the closest race on my ballot because the Manus Couch race, or Manus won that one by a lot. Because I had some inside intel that they were talking about. They were talking about it was going to be really, really, really close, like within like 50, and it was like I think he won by like 1,500 or something like that. I didn't see who won the Zachary Justin Davis race. I have to look that up. We had a split decision on that. And no on the two amendments. Lafferty won.
One of the amendments was really close.
Yeah, the Mayor Jacobs. I'm sorry, Mayor Kane.
I can't take that seriously. And,
Mayor Kane's ability to spend money.
It did not
on
pass,
behalf of the county did not pass, but it was a lot closer than the other one.
I'm actually glad that we brought that up in a conversation point here on the podcast at some point, because
I think Sam still voted. He voted yes on
did
one.
You voted yes?
Maybe, I'm not sure.
He's not sure. He got confused by the wording,
which is fair. So maybe this is a conversation we can try to clear up at some point. So, and I thought about this when I was doing the ballot. How do we decide how these things are worded on the ballot? And by we, how is it decided how the wording is phrased on a ballot?
It's by the party legal experts.
And
is it?
It seems to be pretty legalese.
Right, but which party?
No,
I think that has to be agreed upon by both. I'm assuming.
Right, and so do they vote on it? Is there a commissioner? Is there
the
a
county
comptroller
charter
that says yes, this is okay to? That was a joke, by the way.
Maybe the county law director.
I don't know. I don't know. But I was reading that. I was like, Jesus, this is really wordy. And if this particular thing about Mayor Jacobs and the, have the ability to spend the money if it was X amount of money below, was it 50,000 or some shit like that?
Right.
Whatever. If that had not been something that we had not intentionally discussed here on the podcast, I'd be like, I don't know if I really completely understand the wording of this, which is on me for not being a more informed voter. I was informed because we talked about it, but I'm just saying it was very wordy.
If it's going to be on the ballot, it should be common sense readable. How stupid do I sound? Readable.
Well, I mean, you don't have to say
every other
readable.
choice. They're just giving you a name and their party to choose from. It's like, okay.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like I got to read a paragraph. Like, wait, what is this?
And maybe we should, because I mean, maybe the voter would say, well, listen, it wasn't. You only had 8 words here, and there are ways for me to interpret this outside of these 8 words, and so it needs to be you need to be a little more intentional about what you mean with this. If I'm going to vote yes or no, I get that. I'm just thinking, at some point we have to agree about how this particular thing is going to be worded, and I don't know if we've had that cleared up.
Yeah, because
if you don't know, just say you don't know.
Well, no, I know parts and pieces of it
which is no.
Well, part of it is that it's it's the legal verbiage to change inside of whatever, and so it's because okay, it literally says on Amendment 1, it literally says. Shall the Knox County Charter be amended to take away the people's ability to vote for the Knox County law directors, blah, 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 blah. And so it's literally, it's the way to, it's worded in the way that says take this phrase out and replace it with this phrase, and that's how you have to write that shit for the legal.
I don't care about that. I'm saying that if that the official ballot for Knox County has to be approved,
right?
Whatever's on that,
right?
And I'm saying that no matter what is on that ballot, how is it agreed upon that this is what exactly is going to be stated on the ballot? Is what my question is.
Right.
I would assume it's going to be agreed upon by both parties.
I mean, is it just two parties? I mean, because you had dipshit. What the Green Party? Female. Not dip. Is dipshit a male thing, or can it be female?
I think it could go both ways.
I mean, Jorgensen's female, but
that's what I'm aware. That's what I'm saying.
But her party's influence on the county charter.
He said both parties. I'm just saying that. I
right.
mean, why would it just be two
now,
parties?
To answer that part of it, the way to be assuming his statement is correct in that the parties
on for yay or nay.
The recognized parties,
but they're not official organizations or official. You know what I mean? Like if you say yes, this is what we need to do, and I say no, that's not what we need to do. I mean, it's not like do I have a 501c3 or do I have some sort of nonprofit, or like how do I? Who am I that says that yes, I'm nodding my head that yes, we can have it worded this way. I mean, there's got to be something that happens long before Election Day that is agreed upon before it's even put on the ballot.
Right. So it starts with there is a charter commission that is members of the county commission. The mayor's, I think the mayor's obligated to be a member, and I think the law director is technically a member as well, and they're the ones that get to go in and decide, well, this has been something that's been talked about. Is this something that we want to try to make an amendment to the charter? I think the county commission has to agree and vote on a charter amendment decision that then goes on the ballot. That's the first part of it.
So I get that, and surprisingly, I knew that. Again, the point though is
right.
How do we decide how it's worded?
I believe this particular one, at least, that the law director was the one that wrote it, which is particularly weird because it's a conflict of interest because he's writing it and it involves him because he is the one that it is. His office is what's being elected upon. Right.
So then my immediate question follow up after that would be, so there's no oversight? Is it just him or her? The law director can phrase it in any way he or she sees fit, and then you know what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to go down the rabbit hole.
No, I get it.
Convolute all this stuff, but
right, because there was some story about it. He is intent on chewing on something right now. It's really fucking annoying.
Well, send him upstairs. Send him outside. Give him a koala bear. It's not a bear.
What is it? Just let him fucking eat it.
It's a gecko. No, it's a dinosaur.
Yeah, just let him eat it. He's nervous because we're not paying attention to him. He's got issues. So I need to get him.
Wants to rip the eyeballs off.
Yeah, he will. He will real quick. But yeah, because there was a big stink about it because that wording of take away, other parties involved, and I don't recall the specifics of it, were like that wording's a little bit misleading or whatever. And it's like, no, it's very, very accurate.
That's my point.
Right. There was a whole discussion about it. It happened, and there was some stories about it, but I don't know the full process.
Because you got to think if you are not okay with, let me try to figure out a way to phrase this. You can if you are John Q voter and you have not followed that at all, and you are looking at this ballot and you are sort of typical red Tennessee, and you're seeing that somebody wants to take away the ability to do something, I'm going to vote no. I don't want them to do that. You may not even understand the issue.
Right.
And so if you're writing it, you may also understand that maybe the baseline voter is going to think that way.
Well,
so you're going to phrase it in such a way that you're going to have the result in which that you want to have in the first place.
And I think this one particularly was, maybe not with intent or not, but I think part of the way it was worded made it feel like if you paid some attention but not real clear attention, you made it clear on whether they're asking, do you want to vote for your law director? Yes or no, which is the wrong answer for what you actually want or what the actual ballot item is. Because the ballot item was, do you want the change to, not do you want to vote for the law director? Because if you say yes to that, you're actually saying no on the way the amendment's written. And so, I fully agree. The wording of this thing was really fucked up. And if I think that's when we had the party chairs, both party chairs in here, we were talking about it. And they brought it up as something they agreed on, because that's what the point of me having him here was. And I was like, you two explain it to me, because I want to make sure I understand it correctly, because this is what I'm thinking and this is what I read, but you guys tell me exactly what's happening. Mm-hmm. And so they told it, and it was blah. And I was like, so the clarification is, you're voting yes or no? Do you want to change? And so what is current is we vote for the law director. Do you want to change that? Yes or no? No. And I think, and like we joked about it on the election special, that because at the time, and I just pulled it up, the final was 39,538 voted yes, 169,498 voted no. And at the time, I joked with like 30,000 of those just misread it and voted yes, thinking they were voting no.
30,000 of the 39,000?
Yeah, that'd be my guess. Now, I did hear that they're like, because one of the things I don't understand, and I was trying to do a code, so like, we were featured on a group. There's a group here that was part of the people that made the sign out there that I have in the front yard that says, vote no to keep your right to vote for this position or whatever. And there's a Facebook group and a number of people around town that were trying to promote and making sure everybody understood what was going on and promoting the vote no thing. And they had pulled and promoted our party chair episode because the parties agreed on it. So if you're a Republican or a Democrat, this is something you should do, because if you do what these two chair people tell you to do because you're a member of the party, then you're doing what we want to do. So we're going to support that. So I reached out to them. I was like, hey, thanks for giving us a shout out. Appreciate that. Why don't you send somebody on to really explain what they're doing here so we have a very clear picture? Because my understanding is this. And they're like, yeah, we'll try. And they ended up it ended up just kind of not, schedules didn't work out or whatever. And so as soon as I did that, I was like, I need to find the other side. And so I was looking around, and I called the mayor, or I emailed the mayor's office, because Mayor Kane is the one that's opposed to it. He wanted it to be an appointment. And I was like, can I get a statement from him or whatever? And it's like, well, the mayor doesn't have his particular stance on this or whatever. And so, but they did give me a reference, and I did pull that up, and I have it. Like I have him talking at the charter review about why he wanted to change it. And so, but it wasn't just Mayor Kane. There were other parties at play that wanted to change this, and I wanted to find some of them. And I got some like whispers of people that might be, and I reached out to somebody. I had somebody reached out on our behalf to somebody who was a vote yes person who was pushing the vote yes plan. That's
awfully secretive.
I mean, I'm trying to be polite.
Okay.
I mean,
I understand what you're trying to do.
And so, and they declined comment, for lack of a better word. So,
I find it interesting, just as a side note, and maybe we talked about this a couple weeks ago. I find it interesting that Mayor Jacobs was the person that said that the people should be voting for whatever that was, the public health officials that make laws.
Yeah.
But he is against the people voting for the law director.
Right.
It like that. That seems. I would want to know what the position is that says that those things are actually compatible. It doesn't seem very compatible to me, because if you're saying that people should have the ability to vote for or have a more direct involvement in the selection of members of your local government, then he should be for both of those, not against one and for one.
I could track his logic. I won't say I agree or disagree, but I could track his logic.
I think it goes along with what's in most people's minds right now. And most people don't realize what the law director does. But the past 7-8 months, most people see that health director being the quote unquote deciding factor on whether or not they're able to go out to dinner at night.
The law director doesn't make the law director doesn't make policy. Interprets policy, yes, and that can be a little, I mean, that's a fine line.
But the health director at very rare times has this sort of power. We just happen to be in.
No, they have the real issue at concern, and to those that are making this think about it, the real issue is that they always have this power. It's just that this particular situation is showing the breadth of the power they have.
Right.
And that's the concern, is that technically we could have been 3 years ago, and for
That's what I said. As law director, like they have not those exact powers, but I think they have more probably wide-ranging powers as a law director.
they might have more influence on the commission, but they don't have. They can't. The law director can't wake up and say, and this is an extreme example, but the law director couldn't just wake up in the morning and say, "You're required to wear a mask in public." Regardless of his reasoning for it, it doesn't matter. He doesn't have the authority to do that. The Board of Health does. One is elected and one isn't. Now, just on the surface of that, which one should be elected and which one shouldn't? If only one of them can be. This is hypothetical.
I would not agree. I wouldn't. I would not accept that only one of them should be. Either. You say you follow the logic. I don't see the logic here. You see the logic that Mayor Jacobs can say one should be voted and one should not. Like, how is that? How does that follow? You said you can follow the logic. Help me follow the logic.
The logic being that any persons or parties that have the ability to make rules, regulations, or laws that affect an individual should be an elected body.
Okay.
Right. So
Okay.
that would be his argument for why the Board of Health needs to be under an elected cover. Or
Okay.
whatever.
Pause if you don't mind.
Okay.
So you're telling me that the law director could write up how a law may potentially be, and that doesn't need to be a part of this conversation. Like you said, either make a law. I mean, he's not making the law, but he can word it in such a way that he can get more votes to go in the direction that he would want it to go. I mean, we agreed on that 5 minutes ago.
Right.
So, I mean, like, I still don't see the logic.
Okay, but I mean, it would be under the purview of whatever the appointment process would be that would reflect upon. If it would.
Sure, I understand how that works. I'm just saying that again, I don't follow the logic. I mean, if the logic is, if you're able to, you can't make these laws on for folks, then you should be able to write the law either.
I'm just saying the distinction being the distinction being able to actually effectuate legally what you and I are allowed to do as an individual versus the wording of what the commission or the mayor's office is making us do legally. There
you follow that logic? Like you really actually follow that logic?
There's a distinct line between the two for sure.
I mean, there's a distinct line or there's a potential line there. I mean, I don't think it's a distinct line at all. Again, 5 minutes ago, we just said we just said that. Oh, that's convoluted. I don't know about this wording.
Right.
30,000, like, what is that, 90% of the entire people that voted yes? I mean, I'm not trying to beat a dead horse or spend more time on this than we need to. I just, like, and I'm not trying to attack you about you can follow the logic. I can't follow that logic at all. It doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever that you could have a law director that could word something in a way in which that could convince the people who again, responsibility is on the voting public to understand exactly what's going on. I get all that. But you could word it in such a way where you select something on the ballot that you may not necessarily fully understood, which again is the responsibility of the voter. But that person doesn't need to be an elected official, but the health folks do. It doesn't. It doesn't. It seems incredibly disingenuous.
Okay. I mean, I'm not trying to change your mind on it. I'm not trying.
Well, I am trying to change your mind. I don't think I don't think anybody could follow logic on that. I would if his stance is he doesn't have an official stance, then I think it's lazy.
I agree with that. Like that was disappointing. Like I figured I would get at least a I mean I kind of did. They gave me reference to a quote. Like I figured I'd get an official like this is the mayor's office answer to it.
I also think that's unacceptable. At least Tim Burchett gave me a series of emails.
I mean, I've gone back and forth with the mayor's
on this
office.
particular topic.
No, twice, 2 or 3 emails.
I mean, but he didn't give me an official stance.
Right.
I mean, again, that's disappointing. I mean, we're not emailing Trump or Obama or Biden or anybody. I mean, you know, fuck that. I mean, you should be able to respond.
He's going to football games, and
I don't give a fuck about that. I really don't give. Why would he go to a UT game?
When he goes to high school football games.
I don't give a fuck if he does that or not. I mean, like again, that kind of pisses me off. I mean, this is a low-level local position. He should be able to respond that way.
I was a little disappointed I didn't get a statement, the statement was
what kept you
no
from
statement.
What kept you from following up and saying, "Listen, can I get something other than a reference here?" I mean,
Mostly because I didn't get the other side, because I never followed through with the whole story I was working on. The need fell.
okay.
I mean, I've tried really hard to have if I have a guest on for topic A, I'm gonna have
Sure, I understand.
trying to have the inverse, and
I understand all that, but
and the side I was talking to fell apart, and so I didn't feel the need to push for this.
I understand, but this goes back to the placating thing that we've had in one of our earlier episodes. Is that it seems like in this particular circumstance, he's just placating us. I mean, I don't feel like that these assholes should placate us. I mean, get a bigger staff. I mean, if you don't want to fuck with it, that's fine. Pay somebody to do that.
Right.
I don't want to bitch about the federal government, and then we have local people here that are just saying, "I don't have an official stance on this." Well, Jesus Christ, it's on the ballot.
Right.
I mean,
we're
not asking you whether or not you are for late-term abortion, and you don't want to go down that potential convoluted mess because you can't do anything about it at the local level anyway. But I mean, this actually does affect us here.
Right, and you were vocal about it. So if you're vocal about it, and then all of a sudden when it becomes a ballot item, you all of a sudden don't have a stance, it's kind of bullshit.
It's shitty.
Yeah, but number 2, Amendment 2 was 94,000 to 109,000. Still went no. But who was I looking for? Lafferty won his seat.
Zachary?
Lafferty won his seat. I got that one right. We did not predict the school board one. Dave Wright, because he was running unopposed. Eddie Manis called that one. Carringer Rowland, which is Max's district, and he didn't know either one of those people and who they were.
Which is a fucking shame.
Which was, Carringer won that one pretty good, 44 to 1,400. Sam McKenzie won that seat, which is Sam's seat. He didn't know who that was. He was basically running unopposed. He had an independent that was putting zero effort in, from all I heard. Zachary won his, 54 to 1,600. Elaine Davis beat Gloria Johnson? I thought Gloria Johnson won that seat.
So did I.
Elaine Davis. Oh, I'm reading election day. Sorry, I fucked up. Totals. Elaine Davis 12-6. Gloria Johnson 14-197. Let me go back.
Pretty close still.
Yeah, that's a little over 2,000. Where's Manis at? Because that one was Yeah, Manis couch was 17 to 14, so it was 3,000. So it was bigger. So I lost my second closest race guess.
They mentioned it on a NPR article.
Gloria Johnson.
About it being kind of like first of in some of these elections.
The wrong column.
Because it was like the first transgender that got voted into like a state house office.
Who's that?
I can't remember what state it was, but it was like the first time. But they also mentioned
Eddie Manis
being the first, like openly.
I'll tell you what. I mean, I don't care, but like, I'd talked to him the first time,
right? And
was reading our Compass email one day, and it said something about him being gay. I was like, what? I didn't know that. I don't care. Just I didn't know that. And then like
I doubt it's anything you campaign upon.
Especially around here.
Well, right.
Especially if you
and depending on and especially as a Republican around here.
Which again is hysterical because you are rank and file Trump supporters around here, and somehow I'm sure it can be skewed that you shouldn't vote for a gay person, but yet you can vote for Trump. I mean, come on.
I'm concerned. I'm really concerned going back in time with the Manis Oster situation. That the reason the state party didn't like Manis in that seat was because of that. I don't know that. It's completely...
And they would never admit it.
Yeah, I was about to say, they would never
admit it on the record.
But like
they could not do that.
All the shit and all the stink about that, it's hard for me not to think that might have had some part of that. And that grosses me out if it's true. I guess it grosses me out that I assume it's true.
It doesn't gross me out. I mean, I mean, again, we are not we're not in the most progressive state in the union. We're not in the worst, but we're probably in the lower third, for sure. So,
but I don't know. It's I don't know, like that, like you're saying on the NPR article. It's like I don't fucking care about that. I don't. It doesn't. It
doesn't
it
move
certainly doesn't bother, but
it doesn't move my needle at all. Like I don't
Right.
give a fuck about any of that stuff. I do not care about any of that stuff at all whatsoever.
Right.
The only time that I care about it is when a particular group of individuals claim that they care about it, and all of a sudden they're turning a blind eye to it. That's the only time that I care about it.
See, the only reason. Okay, so go back a sec. The only reason I think that
Maybe it was just a first of just talking about like multiple like first.
right, but the only reason I think that it's interesting in this case is that when you had a race that was so competitive as I got my 30 fucking flyers, and it was, I mean, for what I understand, especially after talking to the chairs about the way the parties work and about the way the kind of system works behind the parties and how they do things, and we talked about it on here, is like it's a return on investment conversation. They're not going to spend a bunch of money on a Jane George, love you Jane, but the party didn't think that you had a chance. The powers that be didn't think that you were going to beat Becky Massey, so they didn't spend a bunch of money on you. I didn't get anything on the Jane George race at all against Becky Massey, but I got everything possibly could happen in the Manis couch race.
Yeah.
And so if you have a race that's close and that you have a party that, I mean, the Democratic Party thought they had a chance at stealing that seat, for lack of a better word. Stealing the seat's not a great word, but had a chance of getting a traditionally red chair and turning it blue. If you're the Manis campaign, I think that could have played to his advantage.
Both are for the state house, right? So no position had a higher weight. Correct?
No, right. I'm just saying, I think that little bit of identity politics that the Manis campaign could have thrown in there.
I don't know if one was like state house and state senate, so one had a slightly more weight versus the other.
Right. The George was Manis or Massey George was a Senate race.
So I went to my phone just now to just try to determine if her dad was John Duncan, the guy that was a local politician here,
And Jimmy, her brother.
Uncle?
Yeah. Huh?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you say uncle.
Is her dad, or it was her
father was mayor of Knoxville,
Right.
2nd Congressional District also.
brother was the state house
Well,
or a federal house?
I wasn't even thinking about Duncan. I was just thinking Massey's and Massey Electric, which is a large electrical company here.
Right.
Is that her husband?
I don't know. I couldn't find it in the Wikipedia thing, but both having the Duncan and having the Massey thing leads, at least locally, leads a little bit of name recognition to you against pretty much anybody here in this area if you're looking to start a
She was
political
great.
career.
Like she was a great interview. I enjoyed her a lot.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know she was. I mean, I'm not. This is not a ageism thing. I didn't know that she was in her
She's
60s.
older.
Yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
know she was 65. I assumed that she was younger.
No, she's older.
I don't care one way or the other. I just didn't know.
I think I think this will probably be her last term. I don't think she's going to run again. I don't know. I have absolutely no evidence for that. It's just a feeling.
Morton Massey,
But she gave me this.
software developer.
She gave me the Tennessee Blue Book, which is actually yellow this year.
Were you waiting to say that joke?
I mean, I said it a couple times before, but yeah, it's really cool. It's like
What is it?
it's like a Tennessee history, and it goes through all the it's everybody that has a seat right now. It's got little bios on everybody that's in the House and Senate, and all the different elected officials that are in office currently.
Who creates that?
The Department of Agriculture, it looks like. No, I'm sorry, the Secretary of State.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
There's one every year.
Yeah. But this one's yellow because of the 18th Amendment. Is that right? The women's right to vote. Which one's that? Is that 18?
I think so.
Because somebody in Tennessee. Fuck. I don't remember the history, the perfect history. Apparently, somebody from the state of Tennessee was a deciding vote in the 18th Amendment.
What does that have to do with the yellow book?
I don't know. She explained it to me. I have to go back and listen. She explained it to me, and I was like, "That's neat. That's cool. It's a really cool thing for you to bring."
I'm gonna forget it.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like it's not like I said something profound like Max says, and then forgets it 5 minutes later.
I mean, in fairness, these are nuggets of information that Max gives out that he forgets that he says when he's in the minute that he's saying it.
Mid-sentence.
Yeah,
Somehow magically he finishes the sentence, but mid-sentence doesn't get
we
anywhere.
were just side note. We were hunting last week or the week before, and so it was right after sunrise, and bought a new deer call, which is a different subject altogether. And I had this doe come up, and she was like, I don't know, maybe 20 feet away from me, I guess. And I was in a Coleman chair. I couldn't, get my shot off or whatever. And so I was texting Max, who was about 200 yards away from me. And I was like, "Hey man, there's a doe behind you. If you see it, take the shot because I don't have the angle on it, whatever." And then as soon as I sent send on that, I looked over and I could see my car from where I was at. I was like kind of on the top of this small little ridge. I was like, "Holy shit!" And there's a fucking elk that's like 10 feet away from my car also. He's like, I can't see it, man." I'm like, how are you oblivious to some of this stuff sometimes? Like, and then this is the same guy who last year in deer season was asleep, woke up, there was a deer in front of him. He just fires real quick, and all of a sudden it's dead. Like, how does
Apparently that's the Waverly way because
that's fair. That's fair.
Shout out to Randall.
He had another baby actually the other day.
Yeah, I've been talking to him a little bit.
Yeah.
Bitch owes me money.
Randall does?
Yeah.
How come?
Long story.
What does that mean?
I don't know. I didn't want to tell it, but
I understand. That's what I'm trying to.
No, actually, he did pay me. Never mind.
I'm trying to push you back on this.
Doesn't matter.
Why does it not matter?
It's your anyway. But that was Randall's thing too. Is we were waking him up to head back to camp.
Yeah, I remember that. That's funny.
It's like, "Hey man, wake up! Let's head back to camp." And he goes, "Oh," and points over behind us, and he fucking blasts that bitch out of the fucking sky. And then he's like, "I need to make sure it's dead," and then misses it laying on the ground. That is yeah.
Funny. I think I'm gonna go on Monday. I think I'm gonna try to get some deer. We'll see.
Yeah, I packed my pew pew box.
Your what?
My pew pew box.
Pew pew box. Is that your gun box?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
It's not my gun box. It's all my stuff to go pew pewing with, though.
Oh, I see what
all
you
my
said.
gear.
What are we doing? So we're leaving on Thursday.
I don't know. Whenever the camper shows up, I'm going to be in it. That's about all
did
there is
Max
to
get
it.
it fixed?
It's in the shop. That's what he said.
Thursday's in like Thanksgiving Thursday?
No,
That's week
the
before.
one before.
Yeah, it's week before.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
Are you going?
10
You are
days
going,
from,
right?
10 days from now, if you can get off work.
I know your boss.
I'm pretty sure I'm already off for that whole time.
I mean, yeah, you go on vacation like on Tuesday and don't come back till December.
It is
December.
3 weeks.
22nd.
It's 3 weeks from today. No,
it's
2 weeks,
2 weeks
from
from
today.
today.
Jesus Christ!
It's like 10. It's not even 2 weeks. It's like 10 days from today. Really.
Wow.
That's what he does.
That's part of the reason why I reset all this stuff because I wanted to get everything neat and clean so I can pack it up easier.
So I'm gonna bring crossbow, 2 compounds, muzzleloader, and rifle. So if you want to come out on Friday,
What?
yeah, I'm bringing everything. So
I mean, I'm gonna go wander around on Friday regardless,
you
and
gonna
I'm
bring
gonna
anything?
carry something.
Okay.
I mean,
if you, unofficially,
yeah. I mean,
we can
I'm
help
not
you.
doing anything. We're recording this. I forgot.
So do you know Max wasn't sure? Like I know when he came back in after you guys had come back, he had orange on.
Mm-hmm.
As far as bow season, at all times, do you have to have blaze orange on, or is it only like deer season or gun season where
It's a really
only
good,
when you're walking to your stand?
That's a good question. So if it's archery only, my understanding is you don't have to have blaze orange on if it's archery only. Where we were, I'm almost positive there was muzzleloader for elk going on at that time.
Right.
So we had to have orange on during that.
The whole
particular
time, or only when you're going to your stand, essentially, or to your hunting location?
My understanding is as soon as you get out of your vehicle and you're heading into the woods, you have to have it on. That's my understanding.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because otherwise, it kind of defeats the purpose if you're staying
Yeah, I
stationary.
forgot he mentioned because there was elk season going on in that area.
Yeah. Yep. There were some big fucking elk out there too. Man. Anyway.
So I want to go back to something.
Go back.
I want to. This is 2 weeks ago. Go back to something.
Way
Okay.
back.
When I checked out because you and Max were arguing about whether or not Trump was really trying to get rid of Obamacare or not, and we were on the healthcare topic. And while we were talking, an idea had come to me as far as
So that'd be good.
I mean, I said it's what we fought about when it came out to it. Because I got a not very libertarian idea came to me.
Oh, is this when you got pissy?
Yes, because the idea I think it's something worth exploring, and that one of the ways to try to help. I don't know.
Be very careful with your words. I appreciate that.
I'm trying to. I'm failing to come up with words to be careful with, but a way I think that we could make a change to the way insurance is dealt with is to take away the preferred network idea. Is that
I think that's a good first step. Yeah.
Is that you take away it doesn't matter where you go to get a thing done. If you have insurance, the insurance provider needs to cover it.
How do you do that?
To the level of.
Okay, how do you do that?
I don't know. I'm just saying that's why I wanted to talk about it. Is because that's the idea. Is that if I'm on vacation, if I'm here, there, or anywhere, because I guess my thought on it would be that would help, kind of settle what the cost of an item is, the cost of a procedure is.
Seems awfully Bernie Sanders to me.
Okay.
Here's the problem. I think reasonable people would agree with you. The problem would be you would have to do that at a federal level, and we are naive if we think that Blue Cross Blue Shield and Cigna and all these other insurance companies would not pad the pockets of politicians.
Okay, that's fine. I don't want to. I don't want to have a discussion about the possibility of it and why it won't happen. Would it be a thing that would be a positive in the long run?
Probably, yeah.
Okay.
Just like it would also probably be actually less of a drain on the healthcare system if, however we figured it out, everybody had some form of insurance. I mean, it just would. The argument that I have an elbow ache and now I would go to the hospital and it would either back up the hospital system or cause unnecessary money to be drained out of the federal government is incorrect, because there's a lot of money that's written off from hospitals, generally speaking anyway, from folks that can't pay it. So does it matter whether or not we are having the federal government somehow involved to I don't want to say bail out, but provide incentives for hospitals to write things off? Would you rather have the money go there, or would you rather have the money go into some fund where insurance could be a little bit more accessible to everybody? I mean, the assumption is that if everybody had health care, then it would be a drain on the system. Well, we don't know that. That is an argument that is placed by insurance companies.
Right, and it's also an assumption that that it's a drain on what system are we talking about, on the healthcare system, or on the insurance company system, or on the government system.
Right.
Is which one again, because we talked about it. It's like, in a lot of the conversations, a lot of the policy conversations, there's only one solution that's ever on the table, and that's all we ever argue over. Is this the right solution or status quo?
Right.
And so in the healthcare one, it's right now that's the single payer or the status quo is the argument we're having. And my argument is like, well, let's explore some other options here on what we can do outside of a single payer system. And that's not an acceptable conversation to have in the general public. And it's like, well, I want to do that. We agree on the problem. There's a problem with this. What are some things that we can do to move forward in a direction better?
Right. And I agree with that. And I also feel like if I mentioned this 2 weeks ago, if Trump was actually interested in addressing healthcare, he could have done that the first 2 years he was in office. He could have passed pretty much anything he wanted to. And it clearly wasn't a priority. I mean,
I agree.
It just wasn't. And that's a shame, because I mean, who knows the next time we're going to have the ability to have both the White House and the House and the Senate. I mean, we don't know when it might be now, it might be here in 7 weeks, but I don't know if we have it in 7 weeks. I don't know if there's going to be enough of a majority in the Senate to pass something, or if Biden even wants to deal with the political ramifications of even dealing with healthcare right now. I mean, maybe that's something that he has to table, because He's got some folks that are like Jim Jordan that are butthurt about Trump.
Right.
And so I don't know if it's even a thing that he can even bother with right now. But it is unfortunate that, again, this goes back to the first conversation we were even having. If we wanted to get this done, we would. But again, the assumption is if we want to get this done, nobody wants to fuck with it.
Right.
Nobody wants to fuck with it.
And that's fine. I mean, it's not fine, but I'm just saying that is reality, and I agree with you.
Right.
But if we were to rewrite, if the four of like, I will make this our challenge for for in the camper after hunting days is to build a theoretical system between us that makes sense, that we think we could make structural functional change to make the problems that we have and we agree that are inside the healthcare system better.
And you could potentially have insurance companies like Blue Cross that would say, listen, the state of Tennessee has decided that they're going to remove, this is a state oriented progress where the state of Tennessee says we're not going to have these preferred vendors, essentially. Blue Cross may say, okay, well, that's fine. We're not gonna do business there. It's actually advantageous for us to not bother with that anymore. I mean, they could do that. And so, I mean, that's another philosophical sort of conversation that needs to be had if that's the road we went down. I'm not saying that we should or should not do that. I'm just saying that that's a potential reality.
I agree.
And then on top of that, you have to have a conversation with. This is not me taking a shot. This is me just saying to a person that is, been in business for his entire adult life. Are we willing to say that companies have to follow particular laws that are mandated by the federal government? I mean, you're essentially then potentially telling Blue Cross Blue Shield how to run their business.
Right.
Which, again, we're doing anyway in certain
right.
sections, period. So, like, this idea that, oh, my God, we're telling companies what to do. Well, goddamn, we're doing that anyway with certain sections. So, like, that shouldn't be a big deal.
Right. I can't sell beer to a 7-year-old. It's bullshit.
Right. Well, I don't know if it's, I mean, okay. But the point is, I mean, so Democrats couldn't come up with that as an idea because Republicans would push back and say, see, this is what the Democrats are trying to do. They're trying to hurt business. And so you almost had to have Republicans that would initiate
right.
that conversation, or you need to have a conversation that exists in a Trump situation, but Trump is a Democrat and he's got the Senate and the House both as Democrats, and they just fucking ram it through. That's the only way to do it.
Right. Again, I don't know. I'm not asking for the.
You're trying to say, is this a potential?
Right.
I get that. I'm just saying that.
I will acknowledge 100% that we could come up with a theoretically perfect plan that would work for everybody and everybody be happy and blah 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 blah. Doesn't mean it's going to work in the sense that it's going to get passed or whatever. We could write it. We could write the thing that makes perfect sense. Everything works. Everything does everything it's supposed to do. Everybody gets coverage. Everybody's taken care of. Everybody's still making money that wants to make money. But there's no political will to do it. And so it's not going to happen. I get that.
Okay.
But I guess my intent is to explore the things that would actually make functional positive change, regardless of whether or not it is politically advantageous to have it happen for those people that would have the authority to make those changes.
I mean, I'm with you. I think that's the nature of or the spirit of this entire podcast. Really, is to determine like how much of X, Y, and Z topic is smoke and mirrors, and how much of it is like we need to have a conversation about the topics. And I think that nationally we're not interested in that to a certain extent. Really, statewide we're not into that. And I'm not taking another shot at Jacobs just because I'm still pissed off at this. I would argue that to a certain extent he doesn't really care too much about it. Otherwise, again, he wouldn't have just given you some bullshit response to that whole ballot thing. Like, if we're genuinely interested in policy and changes and that sort of thing, you're going to be a little more transparent about stuff. So
right, but again, you're going back to the politicians' inability to make the change.
I understand what I'm doing. I perfectly understand what I'm doing. I guess I don't know what you want to hear from me is what I'm saying.
I mean, I guess what I'm hearing from you is it's a waste of time. Because the powers that be aren't going to change it. They're not going to do what they're supposed to do, or what we think they should do. Whatever. They're not going to give us the time of day. I
mean, we've been talking about healthcare for 50 years. I mean, Do I think it's a waste of time? Me personally, no. Do I think it's going to change? No, I don't think it's going to change at all.
So it's a waste of time. It's fun to talk about. It's an interesting conversation. It's a way to. It's another thing that we can add onto the list of these fucking politician bullshit. Don't care about us kind of thing.
It shouldn't be a waste of time, but ultimately, I think it will be because you're gonna. I mean, Trump could have done it. He didn't. And it doesn't matter if it's Trump; it's whoever the Republican is in that office.
Right.
And I'm just, my point is, if we really wanted to do it, we had the political ability to do it.
Right, but did we have a thing to do that made sense?
We could have done that. I mean, he's the fucking president. I mean, like.
Right, I agree that the stars had aligned.
Yes. That
the thing could have happened.
Correct.
But what was the thing?
The thing is, it's easier. I mean, if I'm being completely honest here, that it is easier to say hate Obamacare than it is to come up with your own system.
Okay.
Politically, it's easier. I mean, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
I don't know why you're getting frustrated by this.
Because you've returned to it's never going to happen.
I know what I've returned to. I don't need to be reminded of that. What I'm telling you is
I'm not asking for what's never going to happen. I'm asking for what
I'm answering.
What could we put together that whether they let it happen or not, we can at least sit down and say we came up with an idea and a plan that made sense.
I'm directly answering your most recent question, which is it a waste of time? And I'm telling you that I don't think it's a waste of time, but everybody else thinks it is. Otherwise, Trump would have done it 2 years ago. That's what I'm trying to answer.
But I guess that if Trump would have done it 2 years ago, that he would have had something to do.
Right. That was the thing. He never proposed anything whatsoever.
He had something to do, he could have done it. But if he didn't have anything to do, whatever the replacement was, and that was
he could have created it. Is what I'm saying. He didn't have that thing to do because he thought it was a waste of time.
Okay, so he didn't have the political will.
He had the political
intelligence.
I mean,
no,
he didn't. Saying it was easier to say like I'm going to come up with someone so much greater. Like Obamacare is shitty.
Correct.
I'm going to come up with someone so much better, and just leaving people in the hopes of and people still think to this day that he was going to come up with something great for healthcare.
Right. They'll be thinking that in January and February when he's not there anymore.
He's so smart. He's going to come up with a great idea. Yeah. But I mean, realistically, I think the only real middle ground, because I mean, it would be a major undertaking to turn our multi-billion or trillion-dollar insurance industry on its head and essentially try to null and void it would be a major undertaking.
I agree.
And I think the only thing really in between is what I guess I didn't hear until recently, what Biden's calling Biden care, is having a public option but still having private insurance. That's the only real meeting ground of getting to anything kind of better. It's having at least an option to where the federal government, as the entity that is, just being, with Medicare, they are a major player with insurance companies and trying to negotiate rates. That's the only thing that's able to get insurance rates down, because right now insurance, they have no competition. I mean, insurance companies are falling left and right. There's 3-4 major ones, and that's pretty much it. And even in some states, you've got maybe 2. You got 2 to choose from, and that's it.
Right.
They're like, you want insurance? Pick A or B. That's your only choice.
Right.
I mean, that's one of the major that's one of the obstacles is getting insurance costs down. Is like there is no competition. That's why there was a push of trying to get a public option, just so the government could weigh in and add to that competition, because they can swing a big dick around,
or at least pretend to. And if they pretend to, it might light a fire under Blue Cross. And be like, oh fuck, okay. We'll play a little bit of ball here. So, it's not going to happen.
Okay, so it's a waste of time. But it's something to talk about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's never going to happen.
To at least start the conversation is getting the ball rolling in the right direction.
I will say this: I think the only, and I'm not trying to be like hoorah one team or the other, but. I think the only way that any of this happens is if there's a Democrat in office. Obama was the only one that even attempted to address it. And again, to beat a dead horse, we could have had it readdressed. It could have been Trump care. I don't give a fuck. I don't care if he took credit for it. I just want it fixed. It doesn't matter to me. I don't think that Republicans are interested in that. I really don't. I think insurance as a whole or health care for folks, I don't think is even in the top 10 list of things that Republicans are interested in doing, which is unfortunate because, there's a lot of folks that if you look at the map from the last 72 hours, there are a lot of folks that are in poverty that are voting for Trump. And I'm sure that it would be helpful to have insurance. But, they're convinced that
Right,
Trump
their assumption that insurance is going to cost them in taxes.
He's going to bring the jobs back.
Yeah, he's going to bring the job. Yeah,
he'll bring blue collar workers that are looking for those factory jobs to open back up.
Yeah, which never happened.
He's going to bring the jobs back up to our city.
Or conversely, the reason why you're voting for Trump is you're convinced that, or the Republican Party, you're convinced that Democrats want to defund police and have rioters and looters, and we're going to let illegals come in here and vote, and like the scare tactics of you don't want to vote for them because we're against that, but they're for that, and that's what you convince people to do. It's nonsense. It goes back to the policy issue we were talking about when we first started. I mean, I would be shocked if a Republican at any point during our lives, while we are alive, is able to or is interested, not able to, because again, he could have. It's just not an issue for Republicans, and it's a shame. I mean, it could be addressed. It could be.
So what are some of the foreign systems that function? I mean, that's one of the things that everybody talks about.
Healthcare?
Yeah.
It's all government. Well, not all of it, but a lot of them are run exclusively by the government. It's essentially a Medicare system.
Okay.
So.
And that's one thing that I think that kind of helped the cause. Instead of calling it socialized medicine, it was, hey, we've already got Medicare for All, which is a government-run insurance program that we exclude to, just people 65 and older. And then we've got Medicaid, which is government-run, disability insurance and for lower income. But it's government-run, but nobody wants to think of that as socialized medicine.
Right.
It's government-run medicine. Veterans Affairs, the VA.
Socialized medicine.
That's government-run healthcare.
Yeah.
That it's exclusively for just the military.
Right.
But everybody wants to turn a blind eye to that being, socialized medicine, but that's something we've had for decades.
It's another issue that I have with this whole demonize the other thing. We don't want a socialist in office, but we already have a fair amount of socialism right now in our business world, in our capitalist society in the United States. I mean, we are paying farmers not to create corn. We are giving subsidies for farmers.
There's something like
socialism.
Referencing TVA being socialized as far as it being government subsidies.
Right. So it's
highest paid government employees in the TVA, right?
Yeah.
There was. I think Trump fired him. I think he fired.
So again, it's easier to say we're going to be a socialist nation like the USSR. Well, no. I mean, but again, if you don't critically analyze this sort of stuff, you don't sit back and realize that we have a fair amount of socialism, at least, the amount of money that would go back from from taxpayers to a federal system and then back to individuals or companies. We already have that anyway, which is the definition of socialism, but nobody wants to talk about that, at least from the Republican side, because it's easier to just say all Democrats want to have everybody make the same amount of money and McDonald's workers should make $50 an hour, which is nonsense. But again, it puts a flame under the base and they vote for them, and it's a vicious cycle of absolute fucking horseshit is what it is. It's so frustrating. You can't move the needle.
So. I think there's very true socialistic states in the world. I mean, what most Americans view as socialists are more like socialist democratic states that they think of in Europe as, Sweden, Denmark. I mean, even the UK, I mean, even Canada. Everybody wants to talk shit about Canada and their health care, but
their drugs, their pharmaceuticals are cheaper than ours are.
Right.
Yeah, we literally have people that jump across the border to go buy their insulin or whatever there.
Yep. I mean, it goes the other way too, though. There's people that come here from Canada for the specialization that our doctors have that they don't have as readily available there. Is that not true?
No.
I made that up.
They pay a premium for it, yeah.
Right.
I mean, their government's not paying for it, but
We're naive if we think that
yes, there is a quote-unquote wait list for elective surgeries in countries such as that. Yes.
I wasn't throwing shade. I was just trying to make sure I understood the facts.
Just as if, I were to call a surgeon tomorrow, I'm not going to get an appointment tomorrow. It's probably going to get scheduled out.
Right, but I'm going to go somewhere to pay for it when I didn't have to. What is that about? Because it's that important to have it tomorrow.
I mean, that's their choice.
I'm curious why someone would do that if it's paid for.
What's your
I mean, a lot of people
hold on a
that
minute.
shop around for surgeons. I mean,
What's your hypothetical?
Experience.
I'm just trying to follow the lot. Why, like, if
what are you talking about?
I'm just curious if the Canadian system is as good as it is, why would you leave that?
One-off rare occasions that people have hopped the border to go have.
Right. It's the bullshit anomaly thing that I mean.
Has it happened? Is it real?
I don't know.
Do we have people in America that go to Thailand to get shit done? Yeah, because it's cheaper and.
Then they let you do shit they don't let you do here?
No, I mean, some of it's, they just have it as cleaner and it's actually cheaper to go pay them straight up rather than have it done here through insurance, which is through elective, which most insurance companies.
I get it. I mean, it's like a lot of the stem cell shit that you can't do here now. People go, like, Peyton went to Germany or whatever for
which it may be that same thing in Canada where, they only cover so much for, elective surgeries. If it's not something you truly need.
Okay. I'm just following. I'm trying to understand.
I'm just playing along with your logic. You're throwing out a hypothetical. I'm throwing out hypotheticals of that hypothetical.
I asked if it was true, and you said yes, and that's all of that. That's what I wanted to understand.
Okay, I thought you were trying to make a point, not just asking a question.
I think he was trying to closet a point in there. I mean, you may be trying to understand, but it's the Trump way of trying to understand. It's a veiled way to say our system isn't exactly.
I'm curious. I would be curious to know why. Yeah, and in my skeptical sense, sure.
Skeptical sense of what?
My skeptical sense of why the fuck, if it's free in your home country, would you go somewhere else to do it?
Maybe they read there was America has fucking some of the top-notch surgeons and like medical facilities in the world.
Because the system in place?
Or we have more money federally. I mean, come on.
What do you mean more money federally? Why would that make a difference to a surgeon?
Because most of the research that's done is through federal grants. Period.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't. That is. I don't.
People come here for research. I mean, if you're looking to advance something, or if you're looking to advance your career, for that matter, you're not going to do that in a nation or a country that doesn't have access to that stuff. And we, a part of your $1, there's a portion of that goes to research healthcare grants.
I find that interesting. I mean,
that healthcare grants exist.
No, that why we have the best surgeons in the world is, I mean, if that's the logic we're running on, then the reason why I'm curious to know. Yes,
that's it. I mean, also they're able to make a shit ton of fucking money.
That was my assumption,
right?
With clarification of the furthering research and yourself.
It's a mixture of both, depending on what field you want to be in. If you want to be in research, or if you want to be in, high-end specialized surgeries,
which are only there because we've had adequate research to allow that particular field to go on in the first place. So
the question would be, if we go to a Canadian-style system, do we lose that?
Lose what?
That supreme specialization and knowledge base.
Probably not. I mean, probably not knowledge base. The knowledge base is probably there, but I mean, there are certain things that we have access to here. I mean, it could be, equipment. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. Like, because of the way the system works here, that the skill of the individual and I don't know what the word is, the equipment and stuff needed to do the things is available here because of the system that's here. That's what I was trying to chase down. Because that only works in this system. Do we lose that in changing the system? That's what I'm asking.
Lose what?
Whatever it is that makes it the way it is now, as far as whatever the particular is that I'm willing to go pay out of pocket in the United States for a particular thing, where it would be something that would be covered, is because that person or.
I think it would be a rare, like a super rare thing.
Okay.
Yeah, we'd have to. I'd have to look into it, but I mean, even the things like heart bypass surgeries are going to be, I'm sure, are covered in Canada. I'm sure. I mean, and that's one of, if not the most invasive surgery you could potentially have.
Yeah. I'd be curious to see an example of the hypothetical. And I'm not saying it's not true. I know it definitely has happened. But I'd be curious to see like what exactly it was that people were coming from Canada into the U.S. to have done.
Right.
The reason why I'm pushing back on that is I feel like that is a typical. I'm not trying to accuse you of anything. I'm taking you out of the equation for a second. I feel like that's the typical Republican response to we need to improve our healthcare system here. The typical response is to invalidate we need to improve our healthcare system here by saying, if you're saying that Canada is so good, then why are people coming here for that sort of thing? And then that particular argument then invalidates the fact that we need to change anything, and then we stay at status quo. So.
Right. No, I get it. I'm just, it's I don't know. I guess you're right. No, I follow that. I was thinking for a second to be like, well, do we want to, is there a fear in losing something and changing something? But
no.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same thing. No, I get it.
There's a fear of losing something. There's a fear of, if you're a politician, you're going to lose your cushy fucking office and your government job because you're not going to get the funding from the insurance company, the fucking medical manufacturing of X, Y, and Z equipment, blah, 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 because they're not going to give it to you. They're going to give it to your challenger at the next primary.
Right.
And so you are toast.
Right.
And they'll come up with a whole bunch of bullshit that will convince the public, who we've already said are not critical thinkers, and your ass will be out of there. And so you play ball, or you're replaced. And like, I don't want to make this sound like some sort of like mob hit sort of scenario, but as far as money is concerned, and for the most part, you're concerned about that. If you're running for political office, you play ball, or somebody else will, and that's it. So.
And that's it. I can't think of a better way to finish this shit. I forgot what episode this is.
35.
Sure, 35 it is. Pretty sure he's right.
Just making up numbers now.
No, I'm pretty sure
we're always
right.
making up numbers here.
That's true. That is truly true. Almost in agreement. almostinagreement@gmail.com. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Hit us up. Let us know how stupid we are or how not stupid we are. Roddy says hello. He misses all of you. I've got nothing in the pipeline. I'm taking a little bit of a break since we don't have an election coming up. But I do intend to get back into some of this. I do intend to follow up. Becky Massey told me I can reach out to her anytime, and she will schedule to come back and see us and talk about stuff. I followed up with Eddie Manis. I'm going to try to get him in here post-election. Got a number of different things I'm going to do, but for the most part, we'll probably stick to our Saturdays. We got our hunting trip coming up, and the holidays are hitting, so be safe out there. Relax. Whether it's the longer Trump plays this thing out, it's not going to matter. The reality is what the reality is. We'll go back to the real world. Be safe, everybody. Have a good night.